Hello, good evening dear students. Today I am going to discuss about the structure of atom, and in that various models have been proposed from Thomson and then Rutherford. After Rutherford, the next theory was proposed by Neil Bohr. So Bohr's model. In our syllabus, it is mentioned about the review of Bohr's atomic model. So today I will start with some of the postulates of Bohr's theory, Bohr's atomic model, advantages, and some of the failure aspects of this Bohr's atomic model. So let us start the postulates. As usual, the atom has the central massive core nucleus where all the protons and neutrons are present. The size of the nucleus is very small. So, in an atom, the electrons revolve around the nucleus in certain discrete paths called orbits. So, such orbits are also known as stable orbits or stationary orbits. So, the force of attraction between the nucleus and the electrons will be equal to the centrifugal force of the moving electron. And an electron can move only in those permissive orbits in which the angular momentum, that is MVR, of an electron is an integral multiple of h upon 2 pi, where h is Planck's constant. If we take up the angular momentum, then the angular momentum will be equal to n h upon 2 pi. So where m is mass of an electron, r is the radius of the orbit, v is the velocity of electron, and h is Planck constant, and n is the order of the orbit. So if we take up the angular momentum, it can be h upon 2 pi, 2h upon 2 pi, 3h upon 2 pi, etc. Commonly it can be given as nh upon 2 pi. So this concept is known as quantization of angular momentum. Therefore, in the equation, n is the integer which is called as principal quantum number. It can have the values from 1, 2, 3 from the nucleus, and wherein the various energy levels are given as k, when k where n is equal to 1, l n is equal to 2, m n equal to 3, etc. So since the electron is present in these orbits, it is associated with some energies. So these orbits also can be called as energy levels. The emission or absorption of radiation by the atom takes place when an electron jumps from one stationary orbit to another stationary orbit. Say for example, if we take E1 is the energy state of first orbit, E2 is the energy state of the second orbit, then when electron jumps from one stationary to another stationary, there are two possibilities. One is the emission, wherein the difference E1 minus E2 will be given by h nu, where h is Planck constant, mu is the frequency. And similarly, if it is absorption, similar thing you can give it for the energy levels. E1 minus E2 is equal to h nu. So here the radiation which is emitted or absorbed is given by single quantum, which is also called as photon, whose energy is equal to h nu, which is the difference in the energy, that is delta E, of the electron in the two orbits involved. Therefore, the change in energy delta E will be always equal to h nu, where h is a Planck's constant, mu is the frequency of radiant energy. Therefore, the spectrum of the atom will be observed. So when the lowest energy state n is equal to 1, then it is called as ground state. Whereas when an electron absorbs energy, it gets excited and jumps to the outer orbits. At the same time, it will not remain in the outer orbit for the longer time. It has to fall back to the lower energy orbit with the release of energy, which has certain fixed frequency. So accordingly, these are some of the postulates of Bohr's atomic theory or atomic model. Now we will discuss about some of the advantages of this Bohr theory. Bohr's theory satisfactorily explains the spectra of the species having only one electron, that is like hydrogen atom, helium, lithium, etc. And with this, it is possible to calculate the radius of the orbit, which we call it as a Bohr's orbit. So accordingly, Bohr radius of an orbit in which the electron moves is given by this equation, where r is the radius, n is equal to orbit number, m is the mass number, and which will be equal to charge, z is the atomic number of the element, k is the Coulombic constant. After putting the values, we will get the value for radius. So similarly, it is possible to calculate the velocity of electron by using this equation, wherein the velocity is given by z square upon mr. Z is atomic number, E is the charge, m is the mass, r is the radius. So similarly, the velocity is expressed in terms of centimeter per second. Similarly, it is possible to calculate the energy of the electron in the Bohr's orbit. The total energy of the electron is sum of the potential energy and kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is given by kz square upon 2r, and potential energy is given by kz square by r. So if we take up the difference of 2, then it is given as kz square upon 2r. So on substituting r, you will get this equation. From this equation, it is possible to calculate the energy of the orbit. So where m is the atomic mass, z is atomic number, E is the charge, k is Coulombic constant, n is the principal quantum number, h is the Planck's constant, where n can have value from 1, 2, 3, 4 to infinity. So there are some drawbacks of this theory. This theory was successful only in predicting the energy and spectra of hydrogen-like elements which have only one electron. It could not explain the spectra of atoms containing more than one electron. And it could not explain the presence of multispectral line. And this theory did not explain the splitting of spectral line in magnetic field, that is Zeeman effect, and in electric field, that is Stark effect. That is, the intensity of these spectral lines was not at all explained by the Bohr's atomic model. This theory was unable to explain the dual nature of the matter, which was explained on the basis of de Broglie's concept, which we are taking next. This theory could not explain the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and no conclusion was given for the concept of quantization of energy, that is quantum atomic model, which was given by Schrödinger. So with this, I think we have completed the first aspect of review of Bohr's atomic theory. Thank you one and all.